the idea of bringing our next speaker to our Forward Summit. Although it didn't materialize then, I held onto the belief that the stars will align for a future event. Fast forward to the present, and the cosmic connections have indeed aligned. This year, I found myself at the Space Symposium, courtesy of the gracious invitation extended by Shelley Brunswick, who you recently heard from. Shelley's encouragement to explore and showcase space-related activities to the public fueled my commitment. During the symposium, an unexpected encounter allowed me a brief yet impactful conversation with this person. In that moment, I seized the chance to personally extend the invitation, knowing deep down that this time it will come to fruition. Today, it brings me immense pride to introduce a truly inspirational figure, not only to many individuals, but particularly to the Latino community and our amazing island of Puerto Rico. He has not only excelled as an astronaut, but he is currently the chief of the astronaut office. Having gazed upon our planet from the vantage point of space, he joined us today to share insights into his illustrious career and the impactful work he has undertaken throughout his journey. Without further delay, it is my honor to present to you our distinguished astronaut, Joseph Acaba.
Everybody else sent their presentation in, but in case we have an opportunity for questions and answers, I might have some videos that will help. Usually, you know, at the end of the day, I'm like this great speaker who comes up, but our last speaker was amazing. Like, this is horrible. I have to follow her. It's true. We're sitting back there going, holy crap, she's done a lot of good stuff. So, now you're making my job even harder.
Could you describe your feeling of just seeing the first time you see space, in a sense? How was it for you, that like the feeling of the moment?
Yeah, so it's funny because my first flight was on the space shuttle, and one of the first things we do when we get there is get out of your seat and then go take some pictures and some video footage. And once we all got out of our seats, we had all these astronauts looking through a window that's about that big. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so even seeing the Earth from a small window is pretty cool. But then when I flew my second flight and we have the cupola, then you're like, holy crap, this is great. Because then you can see the entire Earth, and you never get tired of looking at it. It almost looks like a picture or a photograph. All right, let's see if we have any luck. Boom. Look at that. This is why astronauts need procedures. So this is just a short video. I know you've had talks all day long, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background on the International Space Station, and then I'll talk more about my background. So the ISS is for us to do science. You saw some combustion experiments. We do a lot with plants, growing food, if we want to go onto Mars. We are launching on the private vehicles, so SpaceX. We still launch with the Russians. I was there about a month ago, and it's a very reliable vehicle, and I've flown twice with them. So a little bit of footage, and then this is the cool feeling when you first get to space. if you watch these videos, every time people come across that hatch, they are smiling. You're not feeling great, but there's always a smile on your face. So that's the view when you go out and do a spacewalk. It is scary, I won't lie. That was on purpose, they didn't drop that. But when you're doing a spacewalk, your spacesuit is now your spaceship. And you always have a cord that is connected to you, but you just don't want to let go. But it's distracting. When you turn around and you see the Earth 200 miles away, and you're just outside, it's pretty cool. And so landing with Boeing, they're going to land on the land. We'll talk more about the Soyuz, the Russian spacecraft, and then of course SpaceX is now landing on the water. And those are very cool to go and see. So, just a little bit about being in space. So I talked a little bit about this. Why do we go to the ISS? It's a very unique environment. It is not a zero G. Okay, there is gravity. We're only 200 miles away from Earth, and I was in space with Mark Vande Hei, and he would hate. If you ever go to a talk with Mark Vande Hei, please do me a favor. Go, Mark, what does it feel like to be in zero gravity? Because he will lose his mind. Okay, so please, if you ever see Mark Vande Hei, ask him that question for me. But it's microgravity because we're constantly falling, just like if you were in an elevator and it dropped underneath your feet for a very long time, you would float. So that's the kind of environment we are in. We can change the environment. And then, of course, a lot of the imagery that you have seen today, a lot of that comes from the International Space Station. I like this slide. I wish that I could take credit for it. But it's cool because it ties into what you all have been talking about today, where exploration requires innovation. Innovation creates new technology. Technology and knowledge create economic opportunities, and then those economic opportunities, they support future exploration. And so that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to explore by innovating. We're creating new technology, which brings in money, which allows us to keep exploring. Someday I'll take this slide and I'll make it a circle, because that's really what it is and what you all are trying to do through your efforts today. Okay, I think we have some engineering nerds out there, right? There's a few here. All right, this is for you. Take a picture. This is how heavy the space station is, how big it is, what is our orbit, how much power. So again, it's just generic information. Any computer coding people here? Over here? So is 2.3 million lines of code a lot or a little? That's nothing, right? No, really. Is it a lot or a little? Are you sure? Who's the expert? All right, somebody needs to tell me if that's a lot or a little. But that's how many we got going on the International Space Station. All right, so just generically, this is the kind of research that we do on the space station. We are doing everything from biology, again, the Earth and space science. I'm a former school teacher. How many any school teachers here? Awesome. Let's hear a round of applause for the school teacher. I just want to say, a school teacher is the most important job on the planet, and I would say it is probably one of the least appreciated jobs on the planet, and we see that by how much we pay them, by how we support the schools. So for those of you that are brave enough and willing to support our future leaders, again, I thank you very much, and you guys are awesome.
I am not the expert in coding, but but I did work in computer safety and software assurance with NASA. That's how I actually met Joe. It is a lot compared to the lines of code that the Apollo program had. They had about 100,000 lines of code, so that's about 25 times that.
All right, there we go from our expert. Thank you very much. There's people aren't asleep yet. This is good. All right, so when you look at the research that we do, and this might interest some of you here, you have about half of the NASA research. We are doing that for exploration, for us to work on the Artemis program, create new technologies, and then go on to Mars. The other half is the ISS National Lab, and this is where we encourage university, the private sector, to come onto the ISS and do research. So those are kind of the big divisions when you talk about NASA research. Of course, our international partners do a lot of work, and the Russians on the other side of the space station are also doing quite a bit. I like these next two slides. You don't need to really look at the words on there, but if you look at the first few years of the International Space Station, it was somewhat limited, the amount and the type of research that we were doing. But then if you look at how far we have come, it's a lot. We are doing a lot of different experiments on the ISS. So if you have a company that you're looking to do some type of research, if you are a university, there are lots of opportunities for you to get involved. This is another one, and I'll give you a code here in a second, but and how many people are here scientists, like do research and all of that? So, all right. So when you look at the research that we do, it can be anywhere from a couple of weeks up to years. And then from you to have your study to publish it, again, it's on the order of years. And then by the time you publish it to when you might take something to market, it could be up to 20 years. So for those of you that are researchers, I applaud you because I don't have that kind of patience. You guys are awesome. But there's a lot that we are gaining. Every year, NASA publishes this book on the annual highlights. And I think, if I was missing a slide, I might have it later. The other part is that we don't, even though it's in the name, the International Space Station, a lot of people don't think about it. We would not have the International Space Station if we did not have our international partners. And this is the same with the Artemis program. We have the Artemis Accords. For humanity to continue to explore, you cannot do it by one single nation. And the International Space Station has been a wonderful test bed and a testament to what that really means. Even today, when we have political differences with Russia, we are still really good partners with them. I came back about a month ago supporting training out there, and that friendship is still really strong. And really, in no other parts of the government do you see that other than space exploration. So that's a big part of it. In this picture, you've got some Russians, you've got Frank Rubio, you've got some Europeans, you have a Japanese astronaut. So it really is an international endeavor. I'm not going to read through all of these words, but the ISS is what's going to help get us to the moon and onto Mars. We are doing lots of experiments. We're trying out new toilets, new ways of preparing food. Get people laugh at the toilet. Anybody got a toilet question? Are we going to get there later? All right. I can see people. Don't worry, I got a video on that. That's why I brought my computer. People like that. All right. So a lot to learn still about the human body. That continues. But again, the commercial activities that are intentional by NASA. SpaceX is doing what it's doing because of NASA and NASA support. We have these private astronaut missions. How many people want to be astronauts? All right, we got a few. There's a few. So, some of us are lucky and we get paid. But if you got like 20 million sitting in a bank account somewhere, there are companies that will send you to space. But the goal is for that price to come down and make it more accessible to more people. So that is the goal, and I fully believe we are going to get there. All right, we're going to just keep going because it's late. If you want to snap a picture of that one, but somebody fancy made this slide for me, so that might be quicker. So I'll leave it up there for a second. I see people now have QR codes for their contact information, and it reminds me of how old I am. All right, we good? All right. So now, let's go to my life story. I used to be cute. I know, isn't that nice? I'm just going to leave it there for a second because I enjoy it. So, my parents are from here. My mom, my mom was born and raised in San Juan. It was great. We were here this summer, and we went. I forget the name of it, but to where she went to like kindergarten, first grade, third, second grade, and right now on the bottom floor, it's like this market. But if you go in there, the floor is still the same. They still have the same paintings on the wall. So it was cool to come back with her. And then my dad is from Matillo, and so thanks. Got some people from that part of the world. He used to run around in the caves and be a crazy kid. And then, for some reason, I don't know why Puerto Ricans do it, they moved to New York. I know why they do it, for jobs and opportunities, but it's cold. Like, really, out of all the different states, you want to go to one of the coldest states? But they went to New York, that's where they met. They moved to California, so my parents were explorers, and that's where this beautiful baby was born. And, like most kids, like playing baseball, thought I had a future. Of course, I loved being at the beach when I had hair, my braces. This was a pretty proud moment. This was me graduating with my master's degree with my grandparents. My grandfather is the one that showed me the early Apollo missions on something called film. Okay? If you go to a movie theater, maybe in the back you see those big reels, but we had one of those at our house, and he would show that. He did not have anything more than a high school education, but he was always interested in science, and he shared that with me. And then my grandmother, who passed away maybe a few years ago, lived to be 99, and I just remember being in space and talking to her, and I could only imagine what was going on in her mind. Like, I'm talking to my grandson who's floating upside down. Like, she didn't have a car when she was born. So I really like this picture because it shows the people that motivated me and got me to where I am today. Of course, if you're going to join the military, you might as well join the Marine Corps, right? Anybody non-Marine Corps? Good. All right. If you want to be the best, you got to be a Marine. And they have the coolest uniform. And then, this is what I looked like before NASA got a hold of me. There's no lie. Okay? I used to have hair before I came to NASA. And what did I say my job was? I was a school teacher. That's why my hair was so long, I could not afford haircuts. Right? So I just let it go. But really, that was the year before I applied to become an astronaut, and I actually cut my hair before I interviewed. So if you've heard me talk before, I'll go through these quickly so we can get to the end. I made some bad choices in my life. If you have kids and they're in high school and you have different things that they can do, you always encourage them. Hey, do something different. Do yeah, do metal shop. Then go learn how to fix a car. Take some music. Do something different. We encourage people to do different things. But I like metal shop. It was fun. And so all 4 years, that's all I did for the electives that I had. And the parents weren't happy about that. Of course, no mother wants their children to join the military, but I did it anyway. Again, I can tell you the story when I know there's only adults in the room, but it involved college-age students away from home who one day said, yeah, let's join the Marine Corps. And the next day, nobody backed out, so we joined the Marine Corps. I graduated from college as a geologist, and I had a nice job. And then I did every immigrant family's worst nightmare, okay? I quit my job to become a volunteer. We know what a volunteer is, right? What does that mean? You don't get paid. Like, how stupid is that? My dad's like, what the hell? I paid for you to go to college, okay? You got a job, and now you're going to quit to work for free. He was not very happy. After the Peace Corps, again, I kind of had a job, but then I moved to the Bahamas to become an island manager. Other than astronaut on a business card, island manager is pretty cool. All right? Joke out that island manager. So that was great. But people were like, why the hell are you going out in the middle of nowhere where there's no mail? The electricity was kind of there if we had it. But it was a research facility. And then the worst thing you can do, other than being a volunteer, is to become a school teacher, right? Because again, now you're going to be poor for the rest of your life. You're going to work 12-hour days. As I did each one of these at the time, there were individuals that thought those were horrible decisions. Mostly my dad. He has his opinions. But then, when I reflect back, and I think about how I became an astronaut who went from that long-haired, hippie-looking dude to this guy, and I look at how did I get selected? What did they look at during the interview and looking at my resume? In a 1-hour interview in front of a panel of about 12 people, I only have 1 hour. The first 30 minutes, all we talked about was my high school and metal shop. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Because they wanted to know, is this somebody, if we send them to the International Space Station, can they turn a wrench? Do they even know what that means? Can they be safe? And so we spent a lot of time talking about that. Being a military person definitely helps out. You do not need to be military to join NASA, so please do not go tomorrow to a recruiter and sign up to join the military. If you want to, cool. I support you. But don't do it if you want to become an astronaut because it's not required. But when I showed up, being in a room full of people that at the time were a little bit biased, especially against a school teacher becoming an astronaut, having this Marine Corps background really helped me. Going to the Peace Corps, guess where they're going to send us? To the International Space Station. So being a Peace Corps volunteer, showing them that I can work in an international environment, live under circumstances that are not great, was very beneficial. Moving to the Bahamas, and again, it was an island. The only thing probably more remote is the International Space Station. So this was a great experience. And then, of course, being a school teacher. So, yeah, exactly. So, two things about being a teacher. When I got hired, NASA wanted to hire 3 educators to become full-time astronauts. Before we had the Teacher in Space program, it was before many of you were born. We had that program. Krista McAuliffe was selected. She was killed on a shuttle flight, and that program just died with her. And so instead of one flight to take a teacher up and bring them back, they now wanted to hire educators to become full-time astronauts. So I was hired under that program, and there were 3 of us that were selected in 2004. Being able to adapt, okay? When you're a school teacher, you walk in every day, you got a lesson plan. You're like, boom, I'm good. I'm going to go do this. We're going to take a little quiz. And then, within 30 seconds of those little crazy children coming into the room, your plan blows up, okay? And then you have to adapt. You have to do things differently to react to the kids, because that's who you're trying to connect with. So if you can be an educator, you can be an astronaut. So yeah, if you want to quit your job and become a school teacher and become an astronaut, I think that's a great idea. Because we could use more of you in the classroom. So when you look at the few missions that I've had, the first one you can see there is the shuttle flight. That's us walking out. This is still the area where astronauts walk today. Getting suited up, and the shuttle launch, all of the launches are about 8.5 minutes to get from Earth up to space. So in 8.5 minutes you go from 0 miles an hour to 17,500 miles an hour. So it's a powerful rocket, but like we talked about, it is super exciting. I feel really proud to have been part of the space shuttle program. People were like, well, that was terrible, we got rid of it, but we had to. Funding was low, but the space shuttle was really good to build the space station. It was like a pickup truck. And once the space station was built, we didn't need a pickup truck anymore. So that's why we went ahead and retired the space shuttle. I did my first long duration flight with the Russians on the Soyuz vehicle. And then I spent about a week underwater off the coast of Florida, what they used to call NEMO and C-Test. It's an analog where we can practice certain skills. We can bring down, in this case, astronauts that have not flown before, so they can interact with veteran astronauts. So that was pretty cool. And then I had my second long duration flight. So here, coming across the hatch on the Russian segment of the space station, again, it's a very exciting time. You know, you get to see your brothers or sisters that are up there that you're going to spend the next few months with. And going back the second time, the smell, or the third time now, the smell, you recognize it. If you were to, like, transport me to the space station and all I could do is smell, I would know where I'm at. It's not bad, it's just not good. Imagine like a house that people have been living in for 20 years with the same carpet, the same paint, food kind of everywhere. Where you work out is where you go to the bathroom, is where you sleep. So you can imagine what the space station smells like. And then in that bottom right, this was a great opportunity with the European Space Agency. It's called CAVES. So I went to Slovenia, and they found this crazy cave that we had to rappel a few hundred meters down to get into, and we spent about 5 days underground. When you're in a cave, like deep into a cave, we have caves here, you know that. If you go deep into a cave and you turn off the light, you cannot see anything. You put your hand here, like there is zero light. And so even when you're asleep, you will wear like a headlamp around your neck, because if you have a flashlight right next to you and you can't find it, you're done. If you go to the bathroom, you know, you had your helmet on with the light, but then you had a second light, because if one of them failed, you were done. So if you ever get a chance to go deep into a cave, it's awesome. I think it's great. So those are what people consider space missions. But now I've moved on in my career. So we'll talk a little bit about these two missions. One I'm currently in and one I just got back from. That's one of my favorite photos from my shuttle flight. You know, of course, the flag goes with me on all of my missions. I had to put Boricua on my shirt. People were like, what the hell's Boricua? They didn't know, but you all went with me on every single one of my missions. So these are all of the previous chiefs of the astronaut office since 1959. If you look at all of those pictures, there's one thing that will stand out to you. They're all white. Okay? No offense to anybody who's white in the room. Okay? But from 1959 to 2023, every chief of the astronaut office was white. And you can see there was one female. And so, you know, when I look at that, and I see this person there, it's a good sign. You know, part of me is like, really? Were there no other people of color since 1959 that could be the chief of the astronaut office? But then I look at it and go, we are making progress. And if you work with NASA, if you work at NASA, you will see NASA is a very diverse organization. When you look at the astronaut office today, we are very diverse, male, female, people of different backgrounds. So I don't want to imply that we are not diverse. It's just like a lot of things in America, it takes time. But there is hope, and we are moving forward, and we are representing. So with me in that job, I represent all of you, and I want to show people that we can do that job, and we can do it well. So I think we're doing all right for ourselves. Thank you very much. So one of my, probably one of the things that will always stand out in my career was being the chief of the astronaut office and going to bring Frank Rubio home. If you don't know Frank Rubio, he's a NASA astronaut. He's from El Salvador, and he flew up to the ISS on a Russian spacecraft. And like all long-duration flights, he was supposed to be there for 6 months. Something happened to his spaceship. It had a leak, and so it no longer had any more cooling, so they could not come home on that spaceship. So they were kind of stranded on the space station. So the Russians, you know, they did the right thing. They got another vehicle. They flew it up there so that if something else were to happen, they could bring the astronauts home. So we always have a way home when we're on the space station. But Frank Rubio, because of the leak on this vehicle, mentally, he went to space going, okay, I'm going to be home. He has a wife. He has kids. I'm going to be home in 6 months. And then about 3 months into the mission, they had a leak. And now we're telling him, bro, you're not coming home for a year. So it was tough for Frank and his family. So after 371 days, it was time to bring him home. So people don't know what's involved in doing that. So we have the NASA plane. It looks really great. It's kind of cool, but it's tiny. Used to be a Nike plane, so every now and then you see the little Nike swoosh in there. But we leave from Houston, and then we flew, where did we go? We went like to Scotland, and we get gas there. And then we end up in Kazakhstan. So this is Karaganda, Kazakhstan. The weather, you can see, was beautiful. It's kind of like the fall here, so the leaves are changing colors. On that top picture, on both of those pictures, you'll see those little like plaques. Those are the names of different people that have supported the International Space Station in bringing people home. So one of those trees have my name on it. But the reason I show it is that the Russians understand international cooperation. And so they take the effort to highlight those people that are not Russian that they are working with. So it's a really good symbol of how strong that partnership is. And the weather was great. I am not going to pick up Laurel O'Hara, who's coming back in March, because the pictures will be different. So I'm sending my deputy Shannon Walker to go get him, because it's going to be cold. And so we go to Karaganda, we hang out for a couple of days, and then in this case, the morning before landing, we hop in an old Russian helicopter in the top left picture. I'm with the ISS program manager, and we are hopping on a helicopter to go fly for about 2 hours to get gas, and then wait for Frank to land. And so that little airport on the right is a real airport. It's just, ain't a lot of people there. So it's like this cool airport with no people, so it's kind of weird. So we hang out there until it's time to go. I was on the helicopter that had the photographers, and so you can see Russians do some crazy stuff. So these dudes are just laying down right there. They kind of had a harness, but I think if they fell out, the harness probably wouldn't work. But, you know, we know where the vehicle's going to come, and so we are in the helicopters just doing circles until somebody sees it. And then these guys are just out there snapping pictures. So all these great pictures you get of a Soyuz landing are these crazy dudes that are taking those pictures. And these are nice pictures so you can see you are, no kidding, out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, when you land, there are no people out there except for the people that are coming to recover you and bring you home. And then you can see, you know, how big the spacecraft is. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but it is not that big. So you're pretty tight in there, but as soon as we hit the ground, within minutes, there are people there to recover you. So the Russians do a really, really good job of making that recovery. And then I love these pictures. This is, you know, Frank and his crew just coming back, but you get an idea of the number of people that are out there to help get him in that, I think it's in that upper, oh yeah, the upper right-hand picture. You know, I look all cool with the telephone, you know, looks like it's all important. But guess who I'm calling? I'm calling Frank's wife. Like, that was the best job ever, is making that phone call and going, here. And then probably the, you know, the second scariest thing in my life other than a spacewalk is carrying Frank Rubio, okay? So there I am in the front. What's the worst thing you could possibly do? Drop him. It's like, Lord, please don't let me fall in a hole. Like, you're not on a sidewalk. You're out in the middle of nowhere. There's grass, there's holes. Please don't let me drop Frank. I don't care so much about Frank. He's strong. But damn, you got the cameras there. You do not want to be that guy that drops Frank Rubio. I don't care if your hand's bleeding, whatever it is. So it was stressful. Okay? But I went to the gym for months for that one job. I did not drop Frank Rubio. The sun was setting, it was so beautiful. And again, when you look at that bottom picture with me and some of the helicopter pilots, you know, we were exchanging patches, we were taking pictures. So please, you know, I know we have our political differences, but people are people. And they were all there for the same mission, and so it was cool. And then, of course, here we are on the way back in the NASA plane, getting ready to land in Houston. Frank got out of his sweatpants and all of that, put on his blue suit so he could look all official and all of that, so he could see his family. Of course, I got my Puerto Rico shirt on. Yeah, when we got off the plane, everybody was waiting for Frank to come out, and I come out. And I was wearing that shirt, so even to the end. So again, one of my highlights of my career was bringing back, you know, this great hero that made a huge sacrifice. So it was great. With that, I will stop. This thing says I have 3 minutes. So, thanks.
There's a lady that wanted to make a question earlier.
at 11 p.m.
Where are we at?
11 p.m. Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
there we
See? Got the coordinates right. Here's the question.
Have your beliefs on death and what happens when we die changed since traveling space?
I think you said, like, changed on how I feel about death.
Yes. Have your beliefs on death and what happens when we die changed since your experience being up in space?
I don't think so. I mean, I know I don't want to die. I know that, you know, it's, we do things, at NASA we do things that are risky, but we think that it's important and that's why we do it. So I don't want people to think that we just like to do risky stuff. But not really, you know, I'm, you know, somewhat religious person, you know, grew up being Catholic. And so I don't think that that has changed. It's just, you know, when you put yourself or you put other people, probably the hardest part about my job now is being the chief of the office, where, you know, I'm the one that helps, you know, hire new astronauts. I'm the one who assigns people to go to space. And now launches and landings are way more stressful than they've ever been, because I feel like I'm responsible for those individuals. But in terms of, you know, what happens after we leave here, didn't really change by going into space.
I think it's very interesting that when all these talks about science, the most predominant questions have been about feelings.
That's human space flight. It's all about the humans. And, you know, the rovers are great, robotics are great, and we need those, but there is a unique aspect of human exploration.
We got 3 more questions, can we?
I'm here all day. When these guys want to walk out.
In that case, here's a question.
Are we bringing the happy hour here? If we did that, we could stay all night.
Right, so at the beginning, you talked a bit about how it feels when you're about to launch, but can you talk to us about entry, descent, and landing? What is that experience of coming back to Earth?
Yeah, the landing is a couple of things with that. Whenever you go to space or you come back, the body doesn't feel great. When you go to space, they call it, I think it's space adaptation sickness, so everybody feels a little bit different. I always felt like I had to throw up. The blood shifts and the fluids shift in your body. So your head, if you imagine standing on your head for like a few minutes, I don't recommend doing that, but that's kind of what it feels like. But that goes away in a couple of days. And for me, it was the same thing when I came home. When I landed, if I were to lay down, I would feel great. But as soon as I sat up or tried to stand up, I would want to throw up. And that probably lasted for me maybe about 8 hours. But if you talk about the landing, the physical landing on the space shuttle, it's very civilized, you know, you're like on an airplane, everything is good. I commend the pilots because if you didn't know, when the space shuttle lands, it's a glider. There are no engines that you can use. You have one chance, and that's it. And these guys are pretty amazing after being in space for a couple of weeks that they can come and land this. But it's very comfortable. You're sitting up, you know, you touch down, you got the parachute, everything is good. When you land on a Soyuz, you know when you are back on Earth. When you look at the pictures, you'll always see like a cloud of dust, and people think that's the impact. But what that is the firing of some, what they call soft landing rockets that's supposed to slow you down a little bit, and they do, but you still know when you land. We tell each other, just don't have your tongue sticking out when you land, if you like it. Because it's you know, you definitely know. But it's always good to come home.
Okay, there's a last question.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really honored to be here and see and hear your experience. I was wondering about if you have played or used any virtual reality simulation or device, and if so, how those experiences have helped you in your experiences out there in the space.
Yeah, like virtual reality stuff. Yeah, we have great simulators. But we also have a virtual reality laboratory. If you get out to the Johnson Space Center, and I'm sure other centers have them, but we spend a lot of time getting ready for spacewalks using the VR lab. We put on goggles, and we will, you get in there and you feel like you're in space, and then what they'll do is they will throw you kind of off of the space station as if you were to let go, and then you have to fly yourself back to the space station. So we use that, and the graphics, every year they get better. We also can hang on to different masses, and they can change what it feels like, so you have an idea of what something will feel like. So a lot of virtual reality, and we're even doing more of that for our space station training, and I expect that to continue to be a bigger part of our training as we continue. So thanks, I think my time is up.
I have a suggestion for that.
Thank you, Marjorie, and a heartfelt thank you for all of you staying until the end. Now we're transitioning to a pivotal session. As you are aware, early today we held a poster session providing students, faculty, and entrepreneurs the platform to showcase their research projects and findings. These projects underwent rigorous evaluation leading to the selections of the best one. So vamos a estar premiando al mejor proyecto en Local Impact, Global Impact and Technical Merit, y de la misma manera vamos a otorgar 3 premios de Mitel, así que invito también a nuestra CEO y a Joe, que ya está aquí para entregar los certificados. Así que rapidito, solo por aquí. El premio al mejor póster en Scientific and Technical Merit, Miosotis Acevedo, de la UPR de Mayagüez. Luego tenemos, Miosotis puede ir subiendo, no la veo, Local Impact, Jairelis Rosa Morales de la Universidad Interamericana. Estos proyectos van a recibir $1,000 cada uno en premio. Tenemos en Global Impact a Karina Vega Escobar de la UPR de Humacao. El pH meter de Mitel va a Natalie Meléndez Vázquez. Medical Sciences Campus. Tenemos un certificado de Mitel de $500 para Rubén Esteban Leoncio Cabán de la Universidad de Puerto Rico en Mayagüez. Y por último tenemos el Starter Kit de Mitel para Yadiel Alejandro Rivera López del Ponce Health Science University. Pasen todos por aquí. Ahora, les quiero felicitar a todos los ganadores del Poster Session. Sé que estamos un poquito pasados de tiempo y para respetar sus agendas y la hora del cóctel y la pequeña sorpresita que le tenemos, quiero darle las gracias al equipo del fideicomiso, al equipo de comunicaciones, a todos los colegas que me han dado el mejor